it kind of worked.
It's the reason they got back together.
You got this police swarming in, and they're like still making out. Hi, this is Juniper.
Hello, this is Elle.
Welcome to our pod. Today we're going to talk about a older Chinese rom-com called Poison Love. It was released in the year 2020, so quite a while ago. But the reason we decided to watch it was because, well, Juniper, decided to watch it while watching Moonlight Mystique. Because Ao Ruipeng, who's the male lead in Moonlight Mystique, is also the male lead in Poison Love. And after I watched it, I thought, oh gosh, this is a pretty pleasant show. And then Elle decided to check out. And so since we both watched it, we decided to do a hopefully random but short pod about the show. Should I give a synopsis, Elle, or do you want to dive right into your reactions? Okay. Well, synopsis-wise, it's a pretty convoluted plot, so I won't go too far, but other than to say it's really about the kind of the romance between the male lead Shimeng, who is like the young CEO. Well, he's not the CEO yet, but he's a pretty senior exec, right? Of a media company, and this voice actress called what's her name? Fang Yan.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
And basically their paths cross. There's kind of a hint of destiny, right, at the beginning, that they were fated to meet, and she believes in fate and romance, and he's kind of like a low EQ, right? Kind of cold exterior but really soft at heart type of guy. And turns out that he can sort of cure her very odd disease of random sleepwalking whenever surprised or shocked by something, which we find is caused by some childhood trauma. And some misunderstandings ensue where she thinks it's really his idol brother, Shi Yi, who is her cure, and who of course, Shi Yi being the second male lead likes her. So then there's a lot of like, who likes whom, who's with whom. There's forced cohabitation going on. There's, right, partying.
All the tropes.
Yeah, all the tropes. Like everything, the kitchen sink. I think I told you at the end, the script went so haywire, they threw in like the bedroom set too. But overall, very, very cute romance. 24 episodes. The Chinese name is 恋爱吧食梦君. And I liked it a lot. I watched it twice by accident, as I told you.
I know, you were like, wait, why am I rewatching the whole thing?
Because, so what I find about this show, I guess let's just dive right in, right, is that it's so watchable. It's a really watchable show. I mean, it helps that the episodes are only like 30, 35 minutes long, right?
Yes.
So 10 minutes shorter than your standard episodes for C-drama, but it's a really watchable show. It's not hard to put my finger on why. There's almost like too many reasons why it's so watchable. Everyone's really sweet and cute, good to look at. I would say that the cast has really good chemistry. It's a really goofy, silly plot, but it's at the same time, it's reflected in a kind of a goofy tone as well. Like,
yes,
it's almost infectious for the audience to watch. Me, at least as the audience. That's my initial kind of, sentiment about the show.
Yeah. Well, so I just finished it like late last night, and I'm with you, like, in that it's one of those shows where, okay, I texted you because I said, oh, I've seen some of the clips floating around on YouTube before, but I didn't really pay much attention to it. And because, okay, I would say if you don't know the actors or actresses, if you don't watch it, like, at a very high level, it doesn't draw you in as much. Like, production value-wise, right? I would say it's a low-budget production. The images are not very... It still looks
nice.
It still looks nice. Aesthetically, they did a very good job with the costumes, with the sets. Like, I actually thought everyone looked really good. But for some reason, I don't know if it's the cinematography or the camera, like, it doesn't pick up that prettiness when you see random clips. So for me, it was like, this felt like a low-budget production. But when you start watching it, right off the bat, the personalities just pop at you. Like the various characters, like you can paint them as like, oh, this is the black belly CEO. Because remember, this is 5 years ago, so that was the trend at the time. Like all these cold-hearted, cold, whatever CEO characters. But he's really not that cold. He's just sort of, they call him a blockhead, and I can see that because he's really just focused on work. He never thought about romance, and it's not. And he's a young guy, so he's like whatever. Like it's but he's also a good guy because the only reason he's cohabitating with this woman is because of his mother's, like, I call that contrived plot where the mother's like makes her sign a contract to be like his housekeeper for 2 months, but the mother's actually very sweet. No, but the mother's actually very sweet. She's not like a crazy evil weirdo, right? She's like, oh, I just want my son to have someone like to take care of him, and she could tell that the female lead is a sweet woman, sweet girl, and she's like, they could just learn to like each other. She's not forcing it. It's not like an arranged marriage, right? So so in the beginning, when you're watching they have very different personalities. And the girl, like I was telling you, she's so ditzy in the beginning. You're like, wait, this is the female lead? And it took me a few episodes to really embrace her because I was like, she's not really as naive as they paint her to be. Like, because her friends will say, you're so naive. And I'm like, I actually don't think she's naive. No. I think she's just a very optimistic, happy person.
Yes.
She's like a ray of sunshine, and that's who she chooses to be, even though she
expresses herself. Like, she's not inhibited. That's why she comes off kooky. But then also there's that whole plot device of her illness that she has to cure. So then she makes all these really bad sounding demands, right? Like, I need a personal item from you, or I need you to hug me, or like when she thought the brother was the cure.
Yes,
it makes her sound like a crazy stalker fan or some airhead, right? When I think what you're saying is, it's so easy for that type of character to be written off, as you see in like 90% of these type of Chinese dramas, where the girl's just stupid or silly or weak and needs saving or like coddling, right? Looking after. She's not like that. Yeah, she needs saving. He does like look out for her, but she's a very independent. She'll fight for what she wants to fight for. And when she wants to change the mood of a situation, she will. She will do something about it. She's just like, I don't care. I need to be an agent in my own life, and I will do something about it.
Yeah, because like she could have been a jaded person, right, based on her upbringing, right? Like we've always seen like characters who are like, I had a crappy childhood, therefore justifies certain things, right? Like here, she talks about being bullied for her medical condition, and she talks about not ever dating because she thought like men would just find her a freak of nature. But it doesn't make her like a dark person, right? Dark things happens to her, and like actually the bullying continues, right? That's why a lot of the sleep disorders that happen in the drama as you're watching it, like they're triggered by people who know about it and like are using it against her. And she just doesn't know that people are doing it on purpose. She just thinks, oh, these are accidental moments where I'm shocked and then I go into my sleep state or sleepwalking state. So, but she still is an eternal optimist, and I think that's what drew the male lead to him because for someone, drew her to him. Is that what I said?
Oh, I thought you said the male lead to him. I'm like,
sorry. The male lead was drawn in by her. Let's put it that way. So, like, I would say that you buy it very quickly that he could like her ostensibly, right? Like they and you know what's interesting? Like they don't mention. I mean, what?
So I want to interject something about that. So finish your thought, and then I'll tag on.
Oh, I was just gonna say there is also a power dynamic between them, but they don't play that up very much, right? Like he's head of the movie studio, and she's part of this small, I guess, voice dubbing studio, and they try to acquire her, and he's technically her boss.
Yes,
but they don't use that dynamic in this drama that much. Like it's actually downplayed. It's like, okay, this is how they meet, but it's not used as a. Which is surprising considering every trope they threw in. This was one of the few tropes they did not use. But anyways, you had some other thoughts.
Right. So I think it stays true to the characters, right? So here's what I think. I'm gonna back up to something you said before. I don't want to go into the whole sleepwalking stuff because we're not here to do another psychology session like we did previously. I think I agree with you that if you just so I had said this show was kind of on my radar when it first came out because people were talking about it a little bit online. I never like went around to watching because I did see some clips of it and I said, "Oh, I don't understand why it's so special." To your point, if you just watch clips of the show, it doesn't really jump out at you, right? I mean, it's sweet. Um, you have to watch the show and from the beginning to get into the like you get into like liking the characters and they're very likable. It's the interaction. It's very I think you said this offline, right? That's very real. It's like these are people
Yes.
you want to be friends with and kind of hang out with because they're so cute and sweet. Even when they're not being cute and sweet, they're pretty genuine in regardless of the not so genuine situations they find themselves in. And I think that's what the show does really well, and that's what makes me accidentally watch it twice and maybe even more from now on. Because it's infinitely you can channel yourself into the show basically and like live vicariously through these characters. It's not just like someone's putting on a show for me. And they're
Yes.
never gonna be real life people I can relate with. These are like truly young lovers falling in love and having bickering moments and playing dirty tricks. It's like I said it's kind of like watching Friends, the American comedy Friends. If you didn't, Friends was a very long running show. At the very beginning, if you didn't know like Jennifer Aniston, all of the like the characters, right, Rachel, Joey, all of them, you just saw clips of them. Yeah, you know, you might like haha laugh a bit, right, at some of the silly ones, especially the really outrageous ones. But you don't. It's not memorable, right? It doesn't necessarily make you want to go watch the whole show. It's the bond between the friends and the fact that you are like, oh, that's such a Joey or Chandler move because you know them, right? That makes you keep watching. And I feel like this show has some of that formula. Not formula. Formula is almost like they're doing it on purpose. The magic of that show, I would say, somehow comes across in here
Yes.
too. To your point about the fact that the mother forced them together and then, you know, he didn't really play or the script didn't play the dynamic of him just like abusing his power. I think there's two things I observed. One is he's always liked her. I think he actually liked her from the get-go. Like he keeps noticing her, right? They keep meeting.
He remembers
And then,
her, yeah.
right. But the reason he's so a-hole about it, right, is because I think A, he doesn't know how to express himself, and B, for the longest time he always thought she liked his brother, so he's really jealous, right?
Yes.
And so he can't obviously become vulnerable by revealing he likes her. So he's always had a soft, I think, spot for her. Because one of my early on favorite scenes is actually in end of episode 1 or beginning of episode 2 when they really, really have their first conversation when she went out and into the rain and gave him an umbrella. By the way, that was kind of an interesting romantic gestures. She does a lot of very grand romantic gestures, which you don't expect a girl in an Asian drama to do.
Yes.
Right? Like she sees the guy outside, standing outside of the record store she works in, and she's just like, "Oh, it's raining. Let me hold the umbrella for him." And he's like, "Who's this?" And then she invites him. Like that's very forward.
Yes.
And he looks at her like I felt that was a very like time capsule romantic moment. It could have been in any other rom-com or even romantic drama, right? And you can tell they parted on very kind of there could be something between them type of note. But then they all went south because, you know, then there was misunderstandings.
Yeah.
So I think he's always had a soft spot for her. He's always looked out for her. You know how they do the bet where she's like, well, let's count the next 10 couples that walk by. And if one of them is a real like romantic pair, I win the bet that their fate or destiny exists. And he always like cheats for her and lets her win. Even though he's like, I don't believe in fate. I don't believe in love or fate and stuff like that. So I feel like that's a show's way of saying he's actually a romantic at heart. He just doesn't want to admit it.
Right. Or he's very well, he's also very bitter, right? Because he lost his dad at a very young age, and I think nobody believed when he said he was kidnapped. Remember that? Like his mother didn't believe it.
Nobody believed him?
Yeah, they didn't treat it as a kidnapping case, and they didn't investigate where the father was. Like there was no fault. That's why nobody knew where the father was. Which is part of the whole convoluted plot line. So like, yes. So if we break it into two separate things, right? There's like the general craziness of the plot. Like there's a lot of random crazy stuff where like the medical stuff didn't fly with me, right? Like the psychiatrist breaking I mean, I assume they have Hippocratic oath in China, but maybe not, right? He's just like divulging her medical conditions to other people um and like like whether or not you believe in some of the other things. And then you have the core uh I guess draw of the show, which are the characters and how their personalities interplay with one another. And like when you're talking about the romantic things, yeah, there were so many great romantic gestures, like for his birthday. Like so when, she was a housekeeper for 2 months and then it was gonna be like her last day there. And he is too like pig-headed to say, I want you to stay. Like he had grown to like her being his roommate, but he won't say any of those things. It's partly also because of his brother. And then she like planned this whole day like roller skating and then took him to a lake and fireworks, like literal fireworks. And like she kissed him on the cheek, she made him soup, like she did everything, and he's still kind of like like, oh my god, it was so sad when
yeah.
she walked away, right? And he did not even like, he's just staring at her back,
He
and
didn't know how to react, and they gave us one of those tropey moments, right? Which you're like,
yeah,
oh, they worked that in. The ability of the script to work in every random trope, like heartache and romantic exuberate. How do you say this? Exuberance.
yeah,
Is amazing. Kudos to the scriptwriter for getting it in that way. Not so much for plot logic, right?
yes.
But
But when she kissed him on the cheek, like I feel like in other dramas it would be like this like music, swelling
yes,
up, like, oh, but here it was more like she was
a
like, I
big
don't know
deal.
what. It was a big deal, but it also wasn't a big deal. It was like so natural for them, and like where she's like, I don't know why I did that, but I'm not sorry I did it. And he's just sort of like, what just happened? But it wasn't like, it didn't make them awkward, right? Because they still kept going on this pseudo date. And actually, I want to take a step back too, right? So before the romance even happens, there's so many funny scenes, like their interactions in his condo when he got drunk and he's doing a song and dance, and then he slapped like talcum powder on her forehead, but that was like 30-year-old, 40-year-old talcum powder. And like just when I say it out loud, it sounds really dumb. Like it sounds like what? But when you watch it, it's so funny. And then you mentioned the goose. When you texted me the goose, I'm like, what goose?
There's a lot of geese themes in the show, but
yes,
the
there's a
goose
lot of
is
geese.
hilarious.
Yeah, there's like wooden geese, and then there's like a real goose that lives in his condo for a short amount of period. And you're like, what is happening? Like when you take these components apart, they sound really ridiculous. But when you watch it, you're like, oh, it's so cute. It's like they have a child together, because he walks that goose. Like he took the goose out at the park to walk it like a dog. And I was like,
I almost forgot about that. He had like a goose like neck ring or something, and like a
like a
neck
frilly
ring.
scarf. Yeah. It was so cute. I was like, oh my god. And then they never showed the goose hatching. Like, remember they had an egg they had to incubate for like 3 days?
They threw the egg away.
No, it started hatching. It was an incubator,
Really?
but then they never followed up. Yeah, they were all like, "Oh, it's hatching," and then they panned away. But yeah, so it's like when you break it down, it's like this is ridiculous. But like if you put it all together, it's like the sweetest, funniest romance that I've seen in a very long time. And like we didn't even mention all the friends. Like you mentioned friends, but like the specific friends, like his, he has an assistant who
Hao Yinjun, Mr.
yeah.
Handsome.
And speaking of Destiny, speaking of Destiny, you should explain the name.
Well, Hao Yinjun phonetically sounds like, because his last name is Hao, right? Yinjun is handsome. in Chinese. So it sounds like you're so handsome. That's his name, Mr. So Handsome.
Like Mr. Very Handsome, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But that's not how it's written, but it's hilarious.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
It suits him. But I really like his friend because they make him kind of like the sidekick comic relief character. But even on his own, he's pretty likable. Like take the silly, veneer away and the glasses. The guy's actually very handsome if you look at the guy. I don't even know who he is, but
I don't know who he is. Yeah. No, I thought his character was really endearing when okay, so like I was saying, speaking of Destin, he happens to be the ex-boyfriend of the female lead's like best friends, right? So
yes.
So the four of them, right? Although they never like went on a double date, the dynamics are very different. But so he dated the second female lead when they were in college, but due to misunderstanding, they broke up. And then so this is supposedly 10 years later, and no, it shouldn't be. The boy's 6, so 6 years later. I don't know. No, the boy said he's turning 7. Yeah. Anyways, timeline aside, when he meets her again, he finds out she has a son. And like usually, these dramas when you find out you have a son, there's at least a moment of shock or something. But he's like, "Oh, I have a son!" Like he's so happy.
he's great. I have my way back into her life.
Yeah, he's like, "Son, I'm your father." Like literally the first 2 minutes of meeting the boy, and the boy's just like, "Mom, is he my dad?" And she's like, "No." He's like, "I am so your dad." And I just thought.
Yeah, I
he's
love how they kind of gang
hilarious.
up on the mom, right? Where like the son's like texting him, like basically. I'm assuming the son is texting the guy all the time because he always showing up, right, randomly to do this or that, or he's very prepared to just insert himself into their lives, which is kind of sweet because honestly, he does all of the work for the second couple's relationship because that girl, oh my god.
I know you didn't like the second female lead. I don't know if she's even considered second female lead because
she is. I think so. And I'd rather have Hao Yingjun as the second male lead, but unfortunately, Shi, the idol musician brother, is the second male lead, and he is so. I mean, if you read comments, everyone's just like, "I hate Shi, I hate Shi, I hate Shi," and it's not the actor's fault per se. Although I mean, I'm not I don't really love the actor. It's not that he did a good or bad job. It's just the way the character is, and he's so not skeevy, manipulative, like self-serving.
Yes. Yes.
Selfish.
He yeah, I mean I don't want to analyze him too much, but I would say like at a very high level, he's one of those characters who I think is designed to be like you should empathize with him. But like he's really not worth.
Sure?
Yes, because they redeem him every time, right? And he's, and they end with him having a very strong and good relationship with Shimeng. But I would say, like, a lot of the drama and conflict is actually caused by him. I mean, you could argue he's the villain. He's actually the villain, right? I mean, they bring in a real villain later on. There's a real villain later on. But for most of the 20 episodes, he's the villain. I mean, he's the one causing the breakups between the main couple. He's interfering with their relationship. He's like, I want to have a chance to pursue her. But so we should back up. Like in the story, even though we have our destined main couple, so he had for the longest time had a crush on the female lead because she's a voice actress and he's an idol, like a singer / actor. So, but he never knew her identity. He just kind of had a secret, I guess, Weibo account to follow her.
Yes.
So he had a one-sided crush on her.
He's the Tan Jianci character from what was it?
Love Me, Love My Voice.
Yes, they're voice actors, right? Like
yes,
I was like,
yes,
he's in love the other way.
Yes, he's in love with her voice, but he didn't know who. So when they meet for the first time, she's actually a fan of his. So in a different type of drama, this would have been like a really good meet cute, right? Like if you set it up that way. But unfortunately for him, he's not her destiny because she already met the main male lead when she was like 5 years old. Like, and that's where her comfort, when they meet again, comes from, right? It's like sort of like
if I put Ao Ruipeng in front of you against Luo Zhen, the guy who plays Shi Yi, who would you pick? Even if they didn't meet at 5.
Yes, yes. Different. If you also think about how she's a ray of sunshine, right? Ao Ruipeng is his character as Shimeng is very cold and and like the typical businessman, whereas the other guy is very like
Gross.
he's a very feeling like he's into his music, he
No.
writes music, he plays, he performs. He comes off as actually being, you would think they would be a better match, but because the other two cohabitated and they know each other so well, like from their habits, from the all the misunderstandings, like they became protective of one another, and it's very hard to infiltrate that. No matter how romantic and moody and sing-songy you are, and he has the idol factor, right? He has all these crazy fans, but it's like she looks at him as like, I admire you for your work, but she's not like into him the way she eventually becomes towards his brother.
But personality-wise, it's also because even though Shimon is cold, he's not really
Yes.
underneath. He's a very warm,
Yes.
sunny kid. If he wasn't so screwed up by his own childhood, right?
Yes.
And circumstance. Well, the brother, to your point, you just said the very words when describing him. Yeah, the veneer is a sexy idol, but underneath, he's kind of like a Byronic character, which
Yes.
is right.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't want to date a Byronic or be with anyone who's Byronic. They're depressed. They're kind of self-loathing, and they're just like it's dark at heart, right? Like there's like a
Yes.
self-loathing and negativity.
Mhm.
And that's why he lashes out and is kind of the quasi-villain because of that, right? The chip on his shoulder and the insufficiency he feels. Whereas Shimon is never like that. So you want to be with someone who's mentally healthy, spiritually healthy, and will bring
Yes.
sunshine to your life. And Shimon is the one to do that.
Yeah. Another drama where this dynamic reminded me of was My Boss, like where they work together and then they also have to live together, and she's like the housekeeper slash cook slash,
Yes.
bringing in a pet into the home, like all of that.
I thought the same thing. I wanted to ask you. I said to myself to actually thank you for triggering that, because I was like, oh, there's certain scenes that almost remind me of scenes in My Boss, like the cooking, right, and the bickering and the kind of like Cold War between the roommates, right? Do you
And the
think
sleep issues.
the sleep issues?
Remember, he had insomnia in My Boss. Yeah.
Right. I wanted to ask you which dynamic is more genuine to you. I have my own opinion. I enjoyed My Boss tremendously. But I feel like this dynamic is more real. Like
I like
Boss
Poison
one,
Love. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is shocking, right? Because we love My Boss. Like, we loved his issue, but we had an issue with the dynamic between his character and the female lead because there was something off. Remember we said that? It was kind of like...
because she turned on him.
But that was at the end. Even when they were together, there was a little bit of like, he was almost like he has a superior power over her, and he uses that, by the way, which is not like in Poison Love. But he's also a child, kind of. He can't compete with her on that level, EQ-wise, and she uses that against him. Or she's completely oblivious to his emotional needs.
Yes.
I feel like. Even when they were cohabitating. She was just kind of like using it to get leverage, right? Whereas in this one, they never do that. They're never trying to, I guess... Yes, they're playing dirty tricks on each other, but they're really not mean about it at the end of the day.
I would say in Poison Love, the way they think about one another is that they're very perceptive of each other, right? Like whenever they tell each other stories of something that happened to themselves, the other person remembers, and then they put it into motion the next time, right? There's a progression to that. It's not like I told you the story and then whatever, right? Like this, it's actually built into the trust and the relationship, like into the dialogue of the relationship. And I think in My Boss, that is what was missing. He liked her, but for us, the issue had always been once she decided she wanted to be like equal to him, she's like, oh, I want to be worthy of you, but then she pitted herself against him to be worthy of him. It's like that's not really love, right? Like
it didn't feel like they were a match of equals because they didn't see themselves as equals, or she didn't. It was competitive. Whereas there's no competition here, even when they're antagonistic against each other at the very beginning. Right? They saw each other as similar human beings on the same, not similar, but on a similar level of footing.
Yeah, okay, so in Poison Love, there is a female rival, if you will, who's like his childhood friend, right? Like who was in Japan and came back, and she has a few episodes, and she kind of plays dirty, but not really. Like she's sort of influenced to play dirty, and I mean, she was okay. Like she didn't really run as much interference as the woman in My Boss, the rival, the love rival in My Boss. And I think here, like they try to use her as sort of I'm talking about the childhood friend. They try to use her as sort of someone to pit. Oh, she's the type of person that would be equal to Shamung, but he always shuts it down like right away, right? Like whoever calls that out, he's like, no, you can't talk crap about my woman, right? Like that kind of protectiveness, and it's really nice to see, right? Like he's not like easily swayed or like, oh, like let me have a moment to consider. Like he doesn't consider that. He's like, whatever, I like her the way she is, and actually don't even try to like dress her up. Like I noticed costume wise, she has some nice clothes. But they dress her actually quite dowdy. If you look at like her loafers and her stockings,
they're like, what is this granny wear?
It is granny wear, but he doesn't care, and I like that they kept her in sensible clothes. The only time she wore heels was that engagement party. Otherwise, she was really herself through and through. Like
or cosplaying Marilyn Monroe and
oh yes, oh my god, that
cute.
scene was so cute. She was beautiful as Audrey Hepburn. By the way, I thought that was her best look.
Yes,
like she was cute as Lara Croft too, but I love
the body for the other two. She has the right look for the Breakfast at Tiffany's look.
Yeah, it was really cute. Yeah, that was a funny scene too. Yeah, there's just so many random scenes. Like I said, it's weird. Like when you break it apart, like if I, if it's like a puzzle that you just threw on the ground, you're like, these random pieces do not make sense. But when you put it all together, it's really pleasant.
You have to watch the whole show from the beginning. Like if you just saw clips, like I said, or you said, it doesn't make sense. You're like, what a stupid show, right? Like what is this? But kudos to however they made it happen, that it has a lot of heart, and I think I watched the whole show with a smile on my face. I know you guffawed, you said.
Yeah, I guffawed. It's like that word came out. I was just cracking up. And I don't, spoilers always, but like the last episode, there were 2 wedding proposals, and I thought that was very nice that they did that. And they were very different. They weren't, they were like completely different in style and tone, but it works for the characters, and I really appreciate that they did that for the fans, or for people, the audience, right?
Yes. I mean, there's a lot of like very natural physical intimacy in the show too. Even though it's ridiculous. Like it starts with him like washing her hair. By the way, again, My Boss had a hair washing scene. Remember we made fun of the fact that Chen Shishi seems to now lately do more rom-coms and washes the hair of the female lead in every one of them. Well, it looks like Ari has given him a run for his money.
But their hair washing scene was also very bickering, right? She's like, that hurts, or it's too hot, or something. And
it sounded like they were, having sex, right?
Yeah. Like, she was complaining the whole time, but it was still very sweet. Yeah.
I just think he's a very tolerant guy. Remember we were texting each other when you first watched, like within the first 5 episodes, she's done so many horrible things to him by accident. Like,
yes.
I was like, we're like, he's actually a very patient guy, given all of the things she's done to him, which is hilarious. Like, she made him almost go bald.
She live streamed him while he was showering, so like full nudity online. So her account got blocked or banned.
I'm surprised. It wasn't her account. I think it's the company account, because remember they said.
No, it was it was her voice acting. I think it was her account, because they said you need to up your presence online because you need to promote the film after. So it was her voice acting account, I think. Yeah, and then she accidentally threw away the bookshelf his dad built. Yeah. Like it was I mean, I don't blame her for that because it's like an old piece of furniture, but you still don't throw away someone's furniture without asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there were geese feathers everywhere in the whole house because they couldn't. Yeah, she was like, she did sneak it in. Her friend brought her the geese as a gift to inspire her to be a voice of the incarnated.
What kind of movies they were making? Because
I want to see this movie.
I
want to see this.
There's love dialogue. There's goose, geese, whatever. What kind of movie is this?
It's probably like a xianxia where the goose cultivated into a goddess. Like, I think that's the story. Oh, and I was telling you that there's all these random jokes, which like the lake where she was gonna surprise him on his birthday. Like, I don't know if you remember. She's like, "Oh, this was supposed to be romantic air. It's like late at night at this lake. She's like, it's supposed to be romantic. Where are the stars in the sky? Why does this place look like a place you would dump a dead body in?" And I was laughing so hard when she said that, and he's just like no comment. He's just staring at her like, "What is she rambling on about?" And then finally, and then she revealed the surprise for him, which was very beautiful and romantic. And then, like later on, when he wanted to do a confession, there's like a whole scene with him and
the snow blowing machine.
His assistant, and then her best male friend. Like the three of them are trying to concoct these different confession scenes, and so funny. Like this, it's like an improv like scene. It felt so improvised, but like they all did it so well. And yeah, it was just hilarious, and they all have funny facial expressions when they were acting it, and I was trying to see if they would break character. No one did, at least in the scenes they used.
I'm sure they broke character a lot on set. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if it's easy to find BTS of it because it's a minor show, but I think when it first came out, they probably were. I'm starting to see some of it on my Red Note feed. So it'll be interesting. Like, it'll show them, like I said, bickering and her kicking her. It's very similar to Bailu trying to beat him up on set on Moonlight Mystique, actually.
Yeah.
And the kissing scenes, right? And there's so much like kissing and hugging. That must be a specialty, like I said offline to you. But which I don't mind, right? It's really hard to find some actors, especially in Chinese drama, who are naturals at that, like physical intimacy. Because nothing against that. It's great if you do it believably. It's the awkward fish kisses and stuff that makes it so not like, please just don't touch each other, right?
Yeah. Like it's obvious you don't like each other, right? And here they're very affectionate, and the PDA is not. It's not salacious. It's just very cute. It's very normal looking. Like it's what you would think a young couple in love would be doing. And the selfies. Once they started dating, when they took selfies of each other and and together, and then when they go out, they would just take random selfies. Like they don't have to do that. But I would say like a couple in their 20s in China, that would be what you would do. You would take selfies all day long, different funny ones, and then it's just so cute the way they did. And then later on, whenever you see her swipe up her phone, the screensaver he put on her phone was still there. Like it was a really weird, funny expression he did, and I like that they were consistent. Like they show you on purpose that it's still there as her screensaver, and it's all very small touches, but I think is what makes the relationship believable.
Yes, I don't know how the show does it. Like I'm not gonna. Well, I don't have a favorite part of the show because, like I said, I can rewatch this whole show anytime. It's just so randomly rewatchable. But I would say that what stands out for me is like the whole stupid, crazy fan thing, where she's like holding like them hostage, and it's like, oh, you ruined like to the female lead Fang Yan, right? She's like, oh, you ruined Shi, the brother's like career, right? How dare you? You made him fall in love with you, and da da da. And then Shimon goes to the rescue and has to they have to prove to her that like, no, she doesn't love Shi, she loves me, Shimon, right? And the fans just like, I don't believe you, you're stalling, prove it. And then just like random, this is how random the script is, right? Randomly they're like, oh, we're gonna have to make out now. Like, what? How did they make this happen in the script? But somehow I was like, it kind of worked, right? Like, you got
the reason they got back together.
Yes, you got this police swarming in, and they're like still making out. The crazy fans just like standing there going, huh? And then and the icing on the cake is, of course, afterwards, Fang Yan's like, now you can't leave me. And he's like, no, we're still broken up. She's like, yeah, you keep trying to lie, right? Like, obviously, you love me, and like, don't try to get out of this one, basically. And they did it all in front of Shi, not on purpose, right? But I was like,
yeah,
the villain gets to, get the pie in the face, right? He
Mm-hmm.
has to observe all of this. So I bring that up only because I was like, it's kind of a prime example of how kooky the show is. It's a very
Yeah.
kooky show, right? And on paper, you're like, there's no way this could work. This is gonna be the worst like scene ever. But when you're watching it, you're like, this is hilarious and really sweet and romantic and cute at the same time.
Yes. Well, you know what's funny? Someone said, "How come like she goes into her sleepwalking state when she's in shock? Like how come when she's tied up and she's getting gasoline like poured on her, she doesn't go into her sleepwalking mode?" But I was like, well, to be fair, Shimon was there, so maybe that's why. I don't know. But yeah, it's a very strange. Like honestly, if you had never recommended it to me, I would be like, I've zero interest in watching this. But once I start watching, I'm like, oh, this is bizarre, but really pleasantly bizarre, and I'm here
Yes.
for it. Yeah.
It's a wacky, joyful ride, and I might go watch it again since there's not that much else to watch right now. No, I mean, honestly, like if I were a producer and I watched him in like Ao Ruipeng in this, I would be like, oh, okay, he's a pretty good like choice for future projects. Maybe that's why. I don't know. This is one of his earlier, I think, leading man dramas.
Yeah. Well, okay, you know how when we were talking about Moonlight Mystique, I said it was schmaltzy. I didn't feel that in this, even though there's a lot of romance and affection. I don't feel like it's played that way. And they also spent a good amount of time talking, expressing their feelings, but it didn't feel like that. But it was lighthearted enough where you're just like, I think this is just normal dating conversation, you
No
know.
one's
And
spewing blood.
no one's spewing blood, thank goodness. Um, yeah, it's funny because people are like, how come her hair is always in a bun? I want to see it down. And several times they style her in a way where like her hair's down. And oh, you know, there was one scene where he was getting ready to go in for that was it like a board of directors meeting, and she's kind of like a wifey, you know, like she's like she's like, can I do your tie? And he's like, do you know how to tie a tie? She's like, no, but I've seen it. Always wanted to do it. And I was like kind of so cute, like she's so happy for him, she's so proud. She's like, oh, I can't wait until you come home with the good news. And I feel like that scene exemplified what their future would look like.
Yes.
Except we saw the actual future, it didn't look like that, but like
Well,
like,
it's just a slight detour, right? With the brothers
yes,
reconciling and taking precedence overall, but knowing Fang Yuan, she'll figure it out, and
yeah,
But most of the show, she tried to get the two guys to reconcile, and then I'm sure now she's gonna, oh, we need to keep some distance between the two of them.
yeah. They're forgetting about me. I'm the third wheel now.
Yeah.
So
So anything else that stands out you want to mention, or are we ready to go to
I think we're ready.
show ratings and recs?
We're ready for ratings. Yeah.
Okay. So I will go first since I'm the one who watched it twice.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm like, I don't know why I'm giggling so much. I think it's the show. It's like laughing gas. It's like watching laughing gas.
Yeah.
So overall, right, within the context of the type of show it is, I give it an 8.9 for overall enjoyability. Shy of 9, and the only reason I don't make it a 9 is because of the, if you look at paper, how silly the script logic is, right? And probably the last 2-3 episodes where they have to tie up the loose end about the childhood kidnapping and stuff, and uncle, it was like, and then the whole fake wedding thing was just like, what? Why? You didn't have to go there? I get why they did that. 8.9, like I said, it's so rewatchable, so funny and sweet. The people are so likable, and it's just a lot of goodwill points, right? Like objectively, this is not an 8.9 show. I mean, meaning it would be lower objectively if you look at it technical. Despite the low budget, like I said, I thought they did a really good job. I think I mentioned to you, it feels a little bit like a Korean rom-com,
Yes.
the aesthetics, especially his wardrobe.
His wardrobe was nice, and he had a variety of outfits. It wasn't like he wore the same outfit every scene. Like he actually had a rotating collection of coats and and tops and sweaters and
Yeah.
so did she actually. Now that I think about it, like they actually had a healthy wardrobe, like a healthy amount of wardrobe, which some low budget shows do not have.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's my rating, 8.9.
Okay, mine's higher. Mine's like a 9.2. Almost a
Ooh.
9.3. I know. Shocking, right? Because I started going like, what is this ridiculousness? But I feel like the characters are so fun to watch. I laughed so many times. And like I got the happy ending at the end, like even beyond the end. And I thought like from beginning to end, it's a full story. I like that. I like that you get the whole thing. You get the whole shebang and it's not like, oh, I'm missing something. Oh, something didn't feel right. Like I feel like everyone got what they deserved, what they needed, what they wanted, and it was very fun to watch. And I actually did go back to rewatch the few scenes that I liked because I was watching it like sort of very fast, and I was like, I want to go back and actually enjoy. And I was even the second and third times, I'm like still cracking up. Like like in the middle of the night, I'm laughing. I'm like, this is ridiculous, but it was so fun, and that's why my rating is high, even though it's silly.
I would totally up my rating, right? Like I'm just trying to balance it with a little bit, like knowing that there's goodwill going on here. What you said you started going, where is this going? By when did you kind of your opinion start to pivot? And then you said you went back to rewatch some of your scenes. Like which ones do you think you'll go back more? Yeah. So where did the turning point happen for you?
I don't remember. I think episode 4 or 5. It was definitely before 6. Because I think at some point I was like, oh, I think I had to get over the hurdle of them living together. I think that was when I was like, oh no, not one of those. Like his mom makes her sign that contract. I'm like, this is so terrible, right? But then once they start living together, and then probably, okay, definitely, I think after the live stream, after I think after the live streaming, I was like, all right, I get it. I get whoever has made this show. I get what they're trying to do. And I like that he doesn't just explode on her. I think that's when I was like, all right, he's not terrible like creep. Like he could have been like a horrible creep, right? But he was like, whatever, like what's wrong with you? Like he's more like he's the even keeled one, right? He's like, what's wrong with you? And she's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. He's like, he doesn't understand like why is she always getting him involved in these shenanigans. And I think after that, I was like, all right, I now understand. And then she actually she grew on me too, because remember in the beginning I was like, what is wrong with this woman? Because I'm like him. I felt like I was him. I'm like, what is wrong with you, woman? And then at some point you're like, okay, she's just a different, she has a different outlook in life, you know? And but she's still trying her best to not, she doesn't try to cause havoc. Like that wasn't her goal. Yeah. So then I think after that, I was like, all right, then I started to sort of enjoy the ride a little bit more, because by then the plot line had settled in. It wasn't like still set up. Oh, she gonna meet the brother because he has a crush on her voice, and like all those things have already been tied up, and now you're just going, okay, let's see how this relationship evolves. So I think that's when it kicked in for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
And highlights? Which ones did you go back to rewatch?
The singing, the drunk dancing with the talcum powder.
You like that? You texted me.
It was weird. It was so weird. Even now, I'm like, what is this? It's like, how do you ask an actor to film that? I'm just trying to think.
They did, and he did.
And my favorite was her reaction, because he kissed her forehead and then she grimaces and shoves him off, and then they cut away. And I thought that was so funny. Like the whole edit of that scene was hilarious, because they didn't even try to, like, they must have broke and started laughing because the edit was so quick. Like as soon as she shoves him, the edit cuts.
Right.
So I was like laughing at that, and then I really like the lake scene where they did the fireworks. Yeah. How about you? You have favorite scenes?
I don't know. I feel like there's favorite episodes or something that I would just rewatch. Like I really like the beginning after the settled in, after he discovers she's living with him. and all that, and all of the shenanigans with the hair gel and the not the hair gel, hair removal gel,
Yeah.
live streaming, and then the goose, and then when he scared her and had to give her CPR,
Oh yes.
he was so
no.
like embarrassed.
Remember when they kissed because of the goose? Like, he
So
accidentally kissed.
contrived, but yeah, hilarious, and they were so
Because
awkward.
they were both like, they both look so disgusted with each other. They didn't like each other at that point, so they're both like, ew. It was funny. It was just so funny. And you realize,
Yes.
like, I didn't look up her age, but he was pretty young when he filmed it. He was like 23,
Yeah.
24.
You can definitely tell he's a lot younger feeling. At least maybe it's just acting, right? Because Fan Yue's character is not old either. Technically, Fan is 25 in Moonlight Mystique.
Yeah.
Remember I said that? Should be the same age, but he seems older.
Yeah. He's young, but he can act older. But he looks young. Yeah.
So high recommend, right? Like rewatch.
Yeah.
I would probably brush this show off every now and then, just to make my iQIYI membership worthwhile, and just rewatch it. Be like, yes, because you can't just watch it anywhere. It's only on iQIYI, and I'll be like, yes, I will go watch or rewatch Poison Love yet again. So.
Yeah. All right. Well.
And
and it's funny because you said that ends on Valentine's Day. So
yes,
yeah. So, anyways, we hope people check it out. It's pretty fun, even though it's an older show.
It's a really good show for what it is. It's not. You know what? I shouldn't even say that. It is just a very good show. Overlook the silliness of the plot initially, and don't roll your eyes, because I think the tendency is to be like, oh, I know exactly where this is going, and it's not really what you think.
Yep.
All right. Until next time, then.
Bye.
Bye.